shall come forth as pure gold. Have you been tried in the fire? Have you been tried in the fire? Well, tell me, did you come through as pure gold?
You kick it like the benefactor's benefactor. Well, truthfully, we know you never been a factor. Well, honestly, the truth is that you've been an actor. And now your actions got them boys locked the mass up. Lectures from the devil got you piping hot. This up and you get screwed and chopped, no Michael Watts. When I was 10, I knew I should have been on rap a lot. Think like Jay Prince and I do more than just rap a lot. Listen, I went and got my digits up. Listen, your favorite, bruh. Listen, you don't want no trouble, cuz. The 25th, I got a meeting with the governor. That's where rap a lot, no cap a lot. I used to from Farron down to Camelot. I used to whip up in my granny's pot. She asked my friends, was I? They said, nope, he not. The line to a praying woman. The truth's a heavy burden and it's weighing on me. Red Doggies caught me slipping with the wailing on me. I went to calling out for Jesus like a reverend on me. Chalked it up to sin, took it on my chin. Gotta take some L's if you wanna win. They took a but didn't take a sin. I didn't even have no re-up I could re-up with. Had to rob another just to re-up. Pray to God it in his heart he found forgiveness for me. It was nothing personal, it was just business for me. When I got on, I paid him back and told him it was ugly. I'd rather ask forgiveness like 100 times than be asking for permission in a beggar's line. Cause of who I be and check out how I tend to mine. I got a partner who don't eat no pork at dinner time, but let you act like you gon' ever hurt or injure mine. He have your woman, and that's my dinner time. I keep my eyes on glory till the devil get behind. Now bear in mind the devil made me offers I decline. We not aligned, not combined, I am not confined to any wicked system that these demons have designed. They frame a mind and have you salty as a bacon rind. I'm trying to mastermind how to help out humankind. I'm open mind, but I do not rock with none aligned. My state of mind is to keep a peace for peace of mind. Unlike Malcolm with my piece at the Venetian blinds. I'm trying to manifest some things in my subconscious mind that I have only seen in dreams in my unconscious mind. My dreams unrefined, spring to mind, a state of mind that make you seem this lucky life of mine is pre-designed. And if it is, to thank the Lord, cause that's the mastermind. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Yes,
Lord. So now I'm solo that I can see under the skirt of an ant. Solo that I don't get high no more when I Geronimo, I just go hand. Solo my cup is a rojo, my cholo, my friend. Solo that I can admit. When I hear that another kid is shot by the popo, it ain't an event. No more. Solo that no more high horses so hard to wear polo. When I do, I cut the pony off, now there's a hole that once was a logo. How fitting. Solo that I can give a fuck about what is trending. Trying to cut down on my spending regardless of winning instead of pretending. And bending over backwards, over half of the had work done. Saying they want something real from a man, just saying that we being real persons. I hate that it's like this, I feel for you and I don't know what it's like with a skirt on. So pardon me if I am being insensitive, but darling, this only works sons. Solo my halo, say way low, it feel like it's been. Solo that when they throw your pesos, don't pay no attention to it. Solo that I am no rookie, but feel like a kid. Looking at the other kids with astonishment while I'm on punishment, watching the summer come close to an end. After 20 years in, I'm so naive I was under the impression that everyone wrote their own verses. It's coming back different, and yet it hurts me. I'm humming and whistling to those not deserving. I stumbled and lived every word. Was I working just way too hard?
All right, guys, welcome to another Note to File live podcast. It's Tuesday at noon Eastern, I think. I don't remember which time zone I'm in right now.
Yeah, you just finished a lot of traveling, right, Brad?
I mean, not a lot compared to, most people and plenty of people in the industry. But for me, it was, and I don't travel particularly well for whatever reason. I don't know what. My body doesn't seem to love it. So it's been a while. Dr. Fox, how are you, man?
Oh my gosh, Brad. Weeks have gone by. We're staying busy. I've getting busier overall. Doing okay. I'm myself gearing up for some travel. I feel the same way you do. I don't leave the home front a whole lot, primarily for financial reasons. It's just expensive.
It's
expensive to travel, but I'm stoked. A little background story, but I was just a director at a mid-sized clinic for physicians, it was literally me against the world. I'm sitting here trying to fight against CROs, trying to get money, trying to do all this, just thinking to myself, man, I wish there was something out there that was for sites. I feel so alone. Finally came conference season, and we got this email across the CRO world saying, hey, we got the Eagle Awards coming up. Vote for us. And this CRO had so many reasons not to vote for them that I just called them out on it. I said, I will not vote for you, and here's why. Exact case studies. Boom, boom, boom. Within 3 days, they fixed it, for one thing. And because of that, I was connected with someone that said, you really need to talk to this company, that company, these things. You need to go to this conference. You need to speak up. That's how I entered the world of conferences. How did you do it, Brad? How did you come to find, as a small community site, how did you find out about conferences and the world that is a conference?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, in my previous roles back in academia and as a director of research for a cardiology hospital here, I did go to some conferences, and it was actually sort of more encouraged as part of development, which is great. I mean, I had been to ACRP, I'd been to SOCRA, I'd been to Magi, sort of the three that I was pretty well aware of back then. But it's been over 10 years, I think, since I've been. I think since, there's been a little more focus on the site voice over the last couple of years. I mean, I'm starting to get a lot more invites, and I mean, like you, and like you're saying, we're busy, and these things are expensive, man. I mean, some of these sites are insanely pricey if you're not speaking or are able to get your registration covered. So that can be challenging for site level folks to deal with. But honestly, yeah, I feel like I needed to get back out and start seeing some people and talking to some people. I do, as much as I hate to admit it, I do think there's some value in sitting in front of people and having a conversation and whatever, having a coffee, having a drink, whatever the case may be. There's just a certain level of intimacy or just humanity that you get from sitting down and talking to people. So I wanted to jump back in and get into some, and then of course, this time of year, there's how many conferences are going on between now and the end of the year? I mean, it's insane, right?
I swear there's 12 to 15 in the next 6 weeks. There's literally multiple conferences across the weeks. And now we've got new generations of conferences. And I already promise you, I'm not plugging a single conference, but we've got Danielle Mitchell. She popped up. Mm-hmm. She's going to be in South Carolina.
Yeah, I talked to her quite a bit over the week, and
she's going to be there.
She's got hers popping up, and you definitely should check that out. That looks like it's going to be great.
Well, don't forget, even Jess Thompson. They're going to do the conference on a cruise ship.
Yeah, Jess. Jess, where's my invite?
Well, I think they rescheduled because it was such a busy conference season. She's like, yeah, I don't want to compete with them. I want more people to come. So you've got so many interests, so many engaged people in the realm for conferences. There's no one conference that's better than the other, but I think a lot of it has to do with what you're trying to get out of it. I know you just came back from SOCRA and Fierce, right? It was a back-to-back.
I did. Yeah, I did. And, if you guys in the comments, I want to hear about what conferences you guys like, because I'm still looking. I'm still interested to know where you guys think the most value is in these conferences. I know, and I think maybe Fox, maybe you had commented some on the difference between a conference and a trade show.
That's what I'm, yeah. So that's,
we can kind of get to that here in a little bit. I think that's an interesting distinction to make, and isn't always clear maybe from the outside. But yeah, so I started in Philadelphia at Fierce Pharma Clinical Summit, which was small. I think it was about 150 people. They had 3 tracks. And it was mostly industry. I really think I mean, unless I was missing something, I believe me and Jimmy from SCRS were the only 2 kind of site-facing people there. Now, I will say I was kind of interested and maybe even encouraged because there was a lot of talk about sites. Now, of course, I would have been nice to have more sites there representing and giving feedback on the things that were, how they were being talked about. And, I think people are recognizing, not that they haven't, but maybe being more vocal about the importance of sites. And they talked about staffing issues and becoming a sponsor of choice for sites. And there were even some solutions there they were talking about that were, site facing, and then, there were a couple sort of like, I think Science 37 basically had like a marketing piece in the middle somewhere. So there was still a little bit of
The whole BD thing.
yeah, a little bit of like
Yeah.
marketing fluffiness. But what I did like about it is most of the talks were very open. They felt more informal. They felt more engaging. There were panels. They were a little less formal, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. And I love that. Like, I actually really appreciated that about it. I felt like it kind of opened up the room and opened up the audience. I mean, when I get asked to speak at things, I don't like to do. I'm like, I don't want to stand at a, lectern and like lecture people, with slides. I don't particularly like that. I prefer the engagement and sort of a more conversational nature. And I felt like it was very conversational.
So what
go
did
ahead.
you, I guess this is one thing that I'm running into because, I always say we want to be here to innovate change. We want to do this. And it's come up with other conferences. You go to this conference and it's great. You feel wonderful, but then nothing happens. So what do you walk away from a conference? What did you did all this? What did you walk away with? Did you
Here's
bring
where
anything?
here's where I'm starting to change my mind about some things. So, we talk about this kind of stuff and we're like, we can't go to conferences. The conferences aren't really even for us, really. I mean, most of them aren't for sites, but I'm beginning to sort of change my outlook. And I think we need to be there and we need to make it a point to be there. Because honestly, I was surprised by how open and willing, and not just open and willing, but people like chasing me down to talk, to hear site perspectives.
Mhm.
Now, how far that goes is also up to us.
Mhm.
So, I do have some phone calls and emails and people reach out after the conference. We're setting up calls. They want me to, talk to more people to talk about the issues that I, discussed while I was there. So I think, yeah, we can sort of like complain or sometimes be upset that, maybe there's not follow through, but like sometimes that's just as much on us of like,
Mhm.
first of all, being there, because if we're not there, we can't have any influence, but then taking the steps that are necessary afterwards to continue that momentum. Like, we can't let it go either. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. I
And
mean, how can
I've been,
you? Yeah.
and I've been guilty of that. I've been guilty of like, I don't want to go. I'm just going to opt out of the whole thing. But the more, especially this trip, I feel like that really kind of helped change my mind to be like, we should be there. Yeah, it's still a pain in the ass and it's still expensive, but like ultimately, if we want to really make change, then that's what I think we need to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, otherwise, the other thing that I'm seeing is it doesn't take long to see the recycled content that can happen as a result of the conference, and that's where it goes to like how okay, you go to a conference, you say, okay, we all agree, we got to do stuff, kumbaya. You leave, and then nothing happens until next year when you talk about the same damn thing. How do you break that cycle to where you actually create progress as a result of talking with these people in the industry?
Yeah, and obviously, I don't know if anyone's perfectly cracked that nut yet, but I think to some degree, it's finding and discerning like who actually cares, and then leaning into that relationship, if that makes sense. You may talk to
Mhm.
10 people and they all say, yeah, 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 your idea is great, but only 2 of them follow up and really engage. And then I think that's where you need to go, right? Is
Mhm.
like, don't waste your time necessarily with the people that are more sort of, I don't know, just signaling that this is what they want when that's not truly the case. And that's fine,
Yep.
that's okay. But and then, maybe it's that, again, we need to do a better job of redefining and putting forward better ideas and better talks, from the site side. So Jeannie, it was really nice to see you at SOCRA. I do want to talk about SOCRA a little bit as well, because it was also great and in a different way. To her point, I do think it was a lot more, I mean, I guess educational is a good word for it. I feel like it's definitely a different audience, like no question about it, and a different focus. I appreciate a lot about it. I do. Differences are interesting. Like, I feel like the industry side at Fierce was a little more, I don't want to say fluffy, but a little bit more fluffy, but it was also a lot of charisma in these talks, for better or worse. And I feel like some of the SOCRA content can sometimes be dry because it's so educational.
Yeah.
And I also feel like you may be better served at SOCRA if you're maybe a little earlier in your career, perhaps. Which is nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. I think we need to focus on that part of the industry. But I found as I sat through a lot of the sessions, I was kind of like, I mean, this is good, but like I kind of know this stuff, you know? And
when I started in the industry, people were explaining to me the accreditations and associations, and what they told me, and it sticks. They said SOCRA is what coordinators get. SOCRA is straight up coordinators. And then the leadership, like administration, they tend to go more to ACRP, because we're trying to weigh the different accreditations. And it makes sense on that SOCRA level. SOCRA is like that accreditation designed for that early stage career coordinator group. And I think that's exactly where they focus. And since it's so dry and it's so, I say dry, but it's educational, that's a really good one to send coordinators to if you want to enhance.
Yeah, you're right. And I don't want that to sound negative, because that's not my intention by saying like it's dry, but because it is more, it's more content, but it's like, it's practical. It's good. You know, like you do want that practical content. I think ideally for me, there's like a mix somewhere between the two, where like you're sort of high level or you're sort of, maybe high level and pragmatic at the same time, you know, where there's just a little bit of a mix. I would have liked to see. And, you know, again, to Jeannie's point, like each conference serves a different purpose, but it's almost hilarious because like we keep finding ourselves just breaking out into our different silos that we already live in. And so, if anything, like in some ways, we're sort of just like emboldening or like deepening ourselves even further in our own
perspectives. We're not even exploring with new people. It's just like it's like a little frat clubs. Little frat clubs come together. They all get together. They already know each other, and they talk and they go to dinner and they do all of this. But it does admittedly limit the amount of exploration that you can have at a conference.
Yeah. And again, it's tough. And this probably does say more about me than it does about either conference, but for whatever reason, I found the industry side a lot easier to sort of like network and connect with people. I don't know if it was the size of the conference or that it's just industry folk are a little more like outgoing, or again, maybe it could say more about me because I'm pretty quiet and I do keep to myself. So, you know, some of that's on me, but for whatever reason, I feel like at Fierce, it was like constant networking and introducing and meeting new people. And SOCRA was a little bit less because there's a lot going on. You know, there's 7 tracks and there's 1,000 people there, and like you're rushing to the next thing, and that can become a lot. You know what I mean? And again, that's not a knock against SOCRA. And at that point, I was already like mentally exhausted, so it could have just been that I was a little checked out more than I would have liked to have been. But
so have you ever been to an SCRS summit?
I've never been. No.
Okay.
I talked a lot, not a lot, but I talked a fair amount to Jimmy Bechtel at Fierce, and you know, great guy. Again, I think it's a good organization. They're doing a lot of great work. I've just never made it out to any of their conferences before. And
so I'll be going to my 5th one, I think, this week. And your meme about that dude in the corner holding his drink, watching everyone else partying,
right?
That's exactly how I felt the first year. And I think that if you are early or new to the conference sector, you go to these conferences with an expectation that you're immediately going to connect with someone. That's why I paid for all this money. I want to make opportunity. I want to network. I want to go there. So the first year you go there and you try to force that connection with people, and it doesn't work. So then you're over here sitting here while all these people who've been to conferences before with each other, like you said, tend to congregate, and you're left out. It reminds me so much of a high school prom, Brad, in so many ways. You've got those, the friends come together. They haven't seen each other in a long time, have a reason to party. They do that. And you're kind of sitting there in the corner until you start to create your own little group within there. I think that there's really good topics. I think that it's safe to say that SCRS is probably one of the OGs in conferences with Christine Pierre. They have a really good story. And I think it's safe to say that they put on a really good production. That is where, and that's kind of where you go into the whole, is this a conference where we're trying to face an objective, or is this a trade show where we are more focused on business development than the actual topics themselves?
And there's nothing wrong with either one. I think there's value in either. And I've just realized this. I haven't been throwing up the comments. At least want to give guys credit for helping contribute here. So yeah, I mean, as you're talking about, I mean, they serve different purposes. That's interesting. And again, I think I've had a little bit of bias towards, you're more like BD facing or BD trade show type get-togethers, I guess. But again, especially having just come from something more industry facing, I actually found it really valuable and really insightful. So I think it's like everything else. It's like, it's more about how well you do it, like how well you work it, or like how well you attend it, if that makes sense, right? Because you can go sit in the corner and not talk to anybody and not really get anything out of it, or you can put yourself out there and talk to people and meet people and make connections you didn't even know existed. And I met Jill from IQVIA there. What's up, Jill? It was really cool to see you. And IQVIA has got some cool stuff going on that hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about on a future podcast. But something you mentioned in a post too is talking about, and you can tell me, I as you can guess, this is not something I do, but do you sort of like strategize how you attend these events? Like, do you go in with the mindset of like, I have this goal in mind, or I'm going to talk to this many people, or I want to find a relationship in this area, or I'm very like, I'm going to show up, I'm going to go with the flow, I'm going to kind of see. Again, probably not the most productive way to do things, but what's your take, or what's your strategy?
So my 4 years of trial and error, and I went on all of the different spectrums. The first year I went was 100% content, getting in there, going into every single breakout session I was interested in, trying to meet the people who were like-minded than me, and swapping out business cards. Mostly content, not much BD. I wanted to be there for the content. And I was there, and we made good friends, but it gets about the third time, it's like, okay, I swear I heard this, 2 conferences ago. It seems like we're not really getting anywhere. So it's a really good time to establish yourself. Then I went the other direction, and I said, okay, I want to do 100% BD. I really want to build up my network. I want to do this. I want a briefcase of business cards by the time I go.
Right.
Complete waste of time. And here's why. When you go to these trade shows, that's just the expectation. Oh yeah, we'll swap business cards and think about it later. Out of, I think I collected 342 business cards. Nobody responded.
That's an insane amount.
Yeah, I was on a business card chain. We had meetings, we had breakout room, and that's the expectation, is in a trade show environment. That's just what you do. Your throughput, your conversion rate as a result of going to trade shows are very, very low.
Yeah,
very, very low. I think and I'm going to strategize this. We'll see where it goes, but I want to try to build my personal brand into going into a trade show, not by those initial introductions here and there at the trade show, but at the whole. I've been building a brand for over a year now, and if you want to meet me, I'm going to be at the show. Let me know if you want to talk. And then that's when it turns into setting up a schedule. I have my entire SCRS professional calendar built into almost like a hybrid. I open up the SCRS app, the agenda's there. I know who I want to talk to. There's certain professionals in the field that I want to support. They're speaking, and they've sat down and supported me when I spoke. So I want to be sure to return, be there for them. And at the same time, around that, it's building up not necessarily new relationships, but opportunities to build upon those relationships that I've already established.
Yeah.
So
no, that makes sense. And I had an opportunity to actually see a lot of people that I've talked to throughout the years, but have never gotten to actually see. So they're not new relationships, but an opportunity to sort of strengthen, relationships you have made. And again, I would encourage people, to have a strategy going in. Again, I'm I'm bad, and I really didn't. I was just kind of trying to see how it goes, but I also wouldn't get too married to any one way, because you don't know how it's going to go. Like, you may end up, within a conversation or down a rabbit hole you never expected, and be able to kind of go with that flow. Because like you said, like, you can talk to 1,000 people, but it may not do you any good at the end of the day. But especially if you're just trying to rifle through conversations or handshakes. But if you get down a thread or down a rabbit hole that's particularly exciting, like, lean into it.
Well, and that's a really good point, Brad, because you were talking about how there's a certain intimacy about sitting down and talking with someone. So what I found was, if you're at the trade show and you're introducing yourself to 300 people, you say the same exact thing 300 times, 20 seconds each.
Right.
And it gets boring and it's old. And odds are, who knows how much time you're trying to just waste your effort on someone who doesn't care. But if you do set down the time with people who already know your story, who already kind of know about you, every single conversation is intuitive based off of any potential collaborations that they want to do with you. So you're far more efficient with your in-person time if you can figure out a way to meet up with people, which, by the way, I've never met you in person.
It's true.
That's going to change in a couple of weeks, if I remember right. And we haven't talked about it, but I'd love to get on your calendar for that event.
No, absolutely not.
No, not at all.
It's full. It's full. I've already planned. So.
Yeah. Well, and dude, that picture of you and Craig on the stage, right. I swear that was like, for anyone who watches the industry, it was, oh my gosh. So I'd love to get a picture with you.
No, of course. And, it was great. I was being able to actually talk to Craig after, years of sort of oftentimes, badgering each other maybe a little bit on the internet. And Joe Dustin, shout out to Joe Dustin for being there. And
was he there too?
Yeah. And he made a lot of the, put together a nice little after party, if you will, where everybody kind of talk and, get to know each other better. And again, like, it's a great industry, Jeannie, I think there were 100. I looked at the attendee list. I think it was like 149. It felt small, but in a good way. Again, it's not something I think I would have taken up on my own, but being asked to, come out and have do the fireside chat thing with Craig was kind of compelling to me, and like something I really liked.
I think my goal is, I want to get enough sponsorships for my podcast to pay for my conference travel.
Yeah, right.
That's what I need to do, is I need to try to find a revenue stream that can just pay for all this travel. Because and I think my guess is a lot of people they really want to be there. But I mean, travel's expensive. You got to figure out how to do it. Set up. I mean, the past few conferences, I've had roommates. So, seeing someone who, you don't mind, say, hey, I promise I don't snore and I don't have weird bedtime routines.
Sure.
You can get a roommate, save money, get your flight ahead of time, try to do conferences on the cheap. And and do that. But I mean, I wish I was there. You're seeing all these superstar names, and I'm thinking, boy, I wish I could have met these people.
Yeah, I would. I mean, it was great times. Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. You know, that was my understanding too. Like Soccer hadn't gone on since 2019, first time in a
Wow.
while. So first in-person event, or not event, but at least big conference. Since
Mm-hmm.
so, I could definitely feel some of that. I don't know if awkward is quite the right word, but it did feel sort of like intense at times.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I had a good time. I thought it was a great conference, especially I think if you're a young site like touching role, you should go. I mean, I know there were some sponsors there, maybe not as many as I would have liked to see. Again, there were more than I thought, but a lot of academic too. It felt like a lot of academic institution related.
Yep, that makes sense with all the
folks.
posters.
Yeah. So again, I think it's a great place, especially if you're kind of early on. There was a lot of content that wasn't, stuff that's not, obvious to new people. If you've been at it for a while, then you're kind of like, yeah, okay, maybe. But there's still nuggets of value to be picked up, even by attending those, So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, it's been a while, so I don't have a lot of great like frame of reference in which to judge. But I had a good time at both. I think for me, I like a smaller. I think I like a smaller conference.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
I mean, it's a testament to Soccer that they have 1,000 people show up in Canada internationally after COVID, after all this time. I think it's a big testament to them, and obviously it's probably a great success. But for whatever reason, it may be again just a personal thing, but like I kind of prefer the intimacy of a little bit smaller audience, maybe.
Yeah, and admittedly, I'm an introvert. It takes a lot of energy to sit there and meet brand new people all the time.
Well, I think that's what's funny is you could see the difference between the way the rooms were being worked between like the industry side and the site side. I mean, I think sites are maybe, and without speaking too generally, there's a lot of introverts on the site side and there's a lot more extroverts on the industry side. I mean, I think that's sort of like maybe a natural.
Well, most of the industry side, they're BD.
They're salespeople, right? Like they're talking to people, they're cold calling.
They do that for a living, and then you get sites in here, and there are some awkward pauses where you're like, okay, this isn't what I'm normally good at. I can't carry a conversation. I just kind of listen in and tune in, but
there were a lot of countries that represented. I noticed at Soccer for sure, which is also very cool and something that I admittedly don't always like consider. Living in my own bubble and like a flyover state in the middle of the US, like, oh yeah, there's clinical trials going on everywhere, including, tons of other countries. So.
That was the key for me, Brad, right there. I'm the same thing. I had director in the middle of a cornfield, isolated, alienated, probably no clinical research happening for 100 miles from here. Reaching that conference point, and I think that's the key, is knowing that you're connected into something far greater than your cornfield. I think that it really puts a lot of like a feeling of togetherness with the industry. It's just I have to say that's the magical part. And regardless of what conference you go to, once you start connecting, because research is like this really weird unicorn in almost every community. It's like, nobody gets me, nobody understands me. I'm just this weird guy who does research. And when you put all of those weird people in the same room and you start sharing stories and you realize, wow, you're going through exactly what I'm going through and I don't even know you. That's a cool feeling. That was like the, oh my gosh, they get it kind of a feeling. And I think that's what being at a conference is truly about.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. You an extrovert, Joe? I'm really shocked to hear that. Sarcasm in case you didn't notice. Thanks for stopping by. And
thanks, Joe. It's good to meet you.
At your next meeting.
By picture, Joe. Maybe we'll have a conversation later.
Yeah, we should. Well, we'll talk about it off air. But I think again, IQVIA is kind of doing some. Actually, I was surprised by what I saw at Fierce from IQVIA, so I thought it was pretty cool. And maybe probably something we'll be talking about on here within the next, few weeks to a month.
You should do that. I look forward to it.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, it is like actually having people that like, oh yeah, we all go through the same struggles, to different degrees. So at least there's some, what's the word, it's escaping me right now, but yeah, we're all feel the same pain in some way. So you get that perspective too. And just how big it is again, because to your point, it's easy to feel like small thing no one understands. If I tell somebody here like, yeah, we do research, like, oh, you work in a lab.
Yeah.
Well, no,
yeah, you have
we
mice
do,
and rats, and
we do drug research. Oh, so you're a scientist? Well, no, I'm not. Oh, so you're a doctor? No, I'm not a doctor either. And pretty soon you give up and you're like, whatever. You see those commercials on TV asking for people, they're going to pay you money to be part of it, to take medicine. That's what I do.
So did you walk away from any of your conferences with something fully applicable? Like, hey, I want to try this out on my sites. I like that idea. I want to do this.
Yeah, actually both, I would say. I was, some of the stuff, it's interesting because I feel like it's things I know, but like being there really reminds you and brings it to the forefront for you. Because I mean, let's be honest too, like how much stuff are you like keeping up with on a day-to-day basis? It's so much, right? Like it's easy to forget about something. So, I was listening to like I don't remember if it was Merck or AbbVie. It was a sponsor talk at the industry at Fierce, and they're talking about site metrics, and I'm looking at like what they're tracking when it comes to sites, and I'm like, well, crap, like we get so caught up in some of the other parts, like we forget about some of these other things. Like we really need to do a better job and maybe better tracking our metrics ourselves to ensure that we're not putting ourselves in a bad position with any big sponsors. You know what I mean? I know that sounds very simple and sort of like, well, yeah, duh, you should be doing that. But, when you're trying to sort of keep balls in the air, like it can be challenging to go track every KPI or, every tiny metric that exists, So I thought that was really just something that kind of slapped me in the face where I was like, oh.
Almost like, oh, I guess I need to be doing that a little bit more.
Like I need to maybe stop ignoring, that email for the fourth time, with that sometimes just happens because you're just going crazy. And I mean, I love the idea of and I don't know. This is I used to do a lot of work with Medtronic at a previous company, a previous job, and we were one of their sites of choice, or I don't remember what they called it, but they would have somebody come on site like every month, and they had a slide presentation of your site compared to all the other sites that were part of the program. They were all, de-identified. But you got to see like how you stack up. And, not that they're trying to like pit sites against each other, but I think just like, enrollment newsletters, I think oftentimes are great at incentivizing sites and PIs. Like being able to see your metrics against other sites can be a big, powerful, incentivizer for you. Because if you're like, well, hey, we're awesome, we start up faster than anybody else, but our queries age longer than everyone else's. So, okay, now we know, we really need to focus on that. And as teams grow and as roles change, I mean, those are things that are can be difficult to track internally. So I don't know why sponsors wouldn't share those metrics. I feel like it would behoove them too, because, you can only give attention to what you know. So I think that's a great idea. I'd love to see that. And I wonder if we asked if they would give them to us.
I mean, you never know. Those two sponsors that you had mentioned in particular are very well known for their metrics. Merck was one of the very first sponsors to insist on diversity demographics that I encountered with. And I think that you're going to see sponsors really demand those diversity demographics much more once the new plans start coming through.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I mean that makes sense. And there was some talk about that too. I could see that being even more of an issue as we go forward. I mean, they don't want to influence or coerce. Why? I mean, why don't they want? Don't you want to influence ops in a positive way? Like, wouldn't that be good?
I mean, I guess if you have metrics that admit that these sites are awesome, it justifies the sites getting paid more because they're awesome.
Yeah, you don't want to. I see what you're saying there.
So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that seems like counterintuitive because you want awesome sites on your trials. So,
well, sites want to do an awesome job. I mean, that was another interesting thing that came up like during Fierce, is someone was talking about how like, oh, sites are understaffed, and like we called a site and they were like, we're too busy to work on your study. And I was like, no.
I bet you it was an academic medical center.
Well, it's also, I think sponsors fail to realize like they're only too busy to work on your study because your study is not as good as another one.
Mm-hmm.
And if your study was a better study, we've got all the time in the world to work on that. Generally the people we're telling that to is because their studies, we can't enroll anyone, we don't get any support. And it's just not put together as well as the study that, we'd rather be spending our time on,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I mean, there's Kelvin. I hope Kelvin comes on a podcast sometime. I truly enjoy his little nuggets.
Yeah, Kelvin, hit us up on the back end and let's get you on sometime to talk. I've noticed, a lot of great engagement from him.
And I agree, Kelvin. It isn't a requirement for most sponsors now. They're gearing up for the diversity plans and they're starting to collect metrics.
I didn't see it as much until we got into oncology.
Mm-hmm.
In oncology, it was like every study, there's a big emphasis I see in feasibility about DEI. We're seeing it trickle down into other.
Yeah.
But it's almost, in the other ones, it feels a little more like they don't press the issue. They're just kind of like, what are your numbers? Okay, great. And they don't really seem to care. But I feel like with the oncology, they really drill down into that or be like, okay, well, how are you going to, increase where your deficiencies are, in terms of reaching, different populations. So it's a little more conversational and makes us like rethink how we do things at the site level, because all the legislation, all the regulations, all that stuff, I mean, who's that really going to fall down to?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, sites, I mean, right? The sites, the one that's primarily responsible. I've been asked to provide a number of RFPs now to a number of sites, not just once. It's been a handful. Every single one of them. What's your diversity demographics on your sites? It actually, CRPN, I had to create a brand new profile questionnaire for my sites to collect that information because I couldn't get them trials. So I told them I need these demographics so that I can get you the trials, and it's worked. So far, you're going to come to a point where we need a predominantly African American site, or a site that sees predominantly African American or Native American or Pacific Islander, or Latino. It's happening right now. The diversity plan is going to be a direct relationship of site selection based off of site demographics. And I agree. I think I saw someone's would be a really good podcast topic. Yeah, that's you could go an hour on that, but
it's true. I mean, I fear that, like, again, they've made it, I say they, like it's some monolith, but like it's challenging. If they're making it challenging for physicians who are not already part of the sort of, clinical trial ecosystem, and then, they don't want to award studies to new people, again, like it's like shooting yourself in the foot, right? Like there are these communities and these physicians who want to get involved. I think they need great partners, and we know there's a lot of us out there trying to make that happen in various ways. But I mean, the industry's also got to open themselves up to taking a chance on those, community providers or, whoever's in those communities. It's not all going to happen through targeted recruitment ad campaigns. You know what I mean? Like, I think we got to get down there, like we are, down at the site community level, engaging with those physicians and providing that support for them. And I've seen some sponsors be very active in that. And make those connections. So I hope we continue to see that, because I don't think it's going to change any other way. You know, you can ask sites all day, but like we can't control the demographics that exist around the site necessarily, right? Like we only have so much. There's only so much we can do about whoever walks through this door. You know, those are much bigger societal and healthcare problems than you know what a research coordinator is going to be able to fix. But if we're willing to take a chance on, you know, going into these communities and providing the infrastructure and support, which means probably a little bit of financial support from sponsors to do that, you know, I think it can be accomplished.
Yeah. So I know you got to leave soon, so we can wrap this up.
Yeah, I got a few minutes, but yeah, I've got a
importantly
site selection visit.
So you're on your way back from conferences. I'm getting stoked. Admittedly, I do have fun at SCRS. I asked a number of the people that I've seen for years now, are you going to SCRS? And a lot of them are actually saying no. Actually, I'm going to skip this year. I'm not going to go this year. I'm going to go to this other conference. So I've got a lot of like people I'm used to seeing that aren't going to be there, which means that it allows me the opportunity to meet new people. Right. And maybe that's what I need. Maybe that's what I need to do. So I've got about my calendars. It's about 25% filled, which means I got plenty of time to mingle, talk, discuss, join. And the one thing that I could say, if we really want to talk about conferences, is you can't just walk into the door and expect something to happen. You have to put the energy into the conference to get what you want out of it. You want a bunch of BD, go for it, but do it the right way. You want to learn something, make a voice, actively volunteer. There's opportunities. I walked into one conference, there weren't many sites there. They just looked at me and said, "We need moderators now." Sure. Went to every single breakout session. I was a moderator for every single breakout session. And I made friends out of it. People remembered me.
Sure.
So
well, I mean, I think your bigger point is really important. Like you get out of it what you put into it, just like everything else, right? Like so, you know, again, I tend to go in with a fairly loose goal. So sometimes, you know, I may not get as much as I want out, but you'll sometimes find if you put yourself in the right place, it'll come to you, if that makes sense. You know, I think there's something to that, a little bit of serendipity, if you will.
Even if you're the guy in the corner watching people dance, there may be another guy in the corner.
It's true.
Watching people dance, he'll strike up a conversation.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that was tongue in cheek a little bit, but you know, I think again, especially
it's so fitting,
there's a lot of introverts in the industry here, and you know, it's good to get out there, put yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit, and you'll be really surprised by, you know, what you can learn.
Thanks, Hiroki. Yeah. So this is my first year. I have a CRPN shirt that I can wear to the conference. My first level of swag. I have some little vinyl stickers I can give out to I have a lot of site partners that are going to meet me at the conference. They've been site partners since the beginning, and I get to meet them for the first time. So it's on its way. Someday I may have a booth, but by then I may have to have someone to help me run it. So.
Well, and you know, I'd be remiss if we didn't do a small plug for SOS. Before we sign off here.
Yep.
Actually, you're the man. Let's hear it.
It's exciting. It is really exciting. I think what we're finding is the Save Our Sites Alliance is that conference that people go to talk about the topics. We're 100% topics, that candid conversations. Maybe a little bit of business development because, frankly, we do have people who help us pay for the conference. But it's not the primary reason. And importantly and I think what you're going to find really puts SOS into its different category, is it's that affordable conference that almost anyone can go to. So the phlebotomists and the coordinators who can't spend $6,000 on a Florida resort vacation, they might be able to take a day, go to Tucson, and maybe speak with like-minded people and maybe take something back with them to help their sites get better. I think that's what you're going to find where SOS is going to find a little bit of a niche in the conference ecosystem.
Yeah, and again, I hope people don't get the wrong idea by the way we named it. I mean, it shouldn't. We don't want it to be insular, and just sites yelling at other sites, because it obviously doesn't do us any good. I really think so far the way we're trying to build it is intentional, in a way that puts the right people together in the room. Because I do think, as lame as it sounds, like magic can happen. You get the right people in the room together. And I feel like, again, some of these conferences are just missing a couple of the pieces, and we may not get it right the first time, but I think with some, continuing to evolve and put the right people together, we can actually make some real things stick.
Yeah. And I agree completely. It's kind of like, and you've been there, Brad. You've probably had that situation where, I mean, as a site, you've struggled. You see how literally the site is the glue that holds research together. It brings the sponsors into the community, maintains the relationship between physicians and patients. It literally is the boots on the ground, making sure that on a global level, we successfully translate community activity for literally like historical progression of healthcare. So the term "save our sites" is not selfish. It's almost like saying, it is
It's
the
more like
crux
save
of
our
everything.
whole ecosystem here.
Yeah.
Save the whole thing that we're all trying to do together. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's fair. It's a good way to put it.
And it's the same. So if you want to talk about resource food chaining and staffing and experience and bringing on the talent of literally an industry, a global industry, that experience is generally pulled from the site level. It is like the infrastructure that supports an entire industry on a labor, personnel, concept, everything. And if you really think about it, all these solutions that are being developed to try to make research better is designed for site utilization, which means it might be a really good idea to talk to the same people who have to operate those solutions every single day. And that is where you're going to bring all these people together: sites, sponsors, CROs, vendors, patients, everyone coming together to focus on how to improve operations at a site to literally help everyone.
Yeah, I mean, that's another great way to say it. It's the foundation, right? I mean, that's it. Beautiful.
That's it.
All right, man. Anything else before we get out of here? And I probably got a CRA.
No, good
lobby
luck,
somewhere.
man. Good luck at your meeting. I know you're gonna
You got
make
it.
You got this.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. We'll be back. We'll be back next Tuesday. Until then, make sure you go check out Dr. Fox. Check out CRPN's podcast. Been super active. Good job, dude. I know how hard it is to to maintain and produce those sorts of things. That's why I've gotten lazy doing the live stream. I don't have to really prepare anything. Let somebody else do the work for you.
I could say one thing, and it's really important to me, and I know it's really important to a lot of people. Every Friday in October, please observe Breast Cancer Awareness Month by wearing pink. I fully intend to wear that at my conferences every single Friday. Show your community support, wear your pink, and be involved in helping breast cancer awareness.
All right, guys. Everybody, have a good rest of your week. Fox, thank you as always.
Thanks, everyone.